Part 1. The lie you never knew you believed. What if I told you that your memories are not real? That everything you think you remember, the conversations, the events, the decisions that shaped your life, might have been rewritten without you even realizing it? And what if I told you that this isn't science fiction? That this happens every single day, to you, to me, to everyone around you? It's called the misinformation effect, one of the most dangerous and overlooked psychological phenomena in existence. Because here's the truth, your brain is not a recording device. It doesn't store perfect, unchangeable files. It is fragile, corruptible, and disturbingly easy to manipulate. And that means someone, a government, a corporation, a friend, even a stranger, could change your memories without you even noticing. In the next few minutes, I will prove to you that you have false memories right now, memories that never happened the way you think they did. You have been tricked before, and you will be tricked again if you don't learn how this works. The way you remember reality has already been influenced by forces outside your control, and by the time you finish this, you will never trust your own mind the same way again. The first time they lied to you. Think back to your childhood. There is something you swear happened, a moment that feels so real, so vivid, that you would bet your life on it. Maybe it was a childhood toy you loved, but when you ask your parents, they say it never existed. Maybe it was a story your friend told you, but when you look back, the details have changed. Maybe it was an argument you know you won, but now, years later, the other person remembers it differently. So here's the question, who is right? Your memory or theirs? What if I told you that neither of you is right? That both of your memories have already been altered. Not by time, not by forgetting, but by a psychological trick so powerful that it can rewrite history in real time. This is where the truth begins to break apart. In part 2, I'm going to show you exactly how this works, and why the world's most powerful people have been using it against you for years. Part 2. How your memories are being rewritten right now. If I asked you to recall the most important events of your life, you'd feel confident in your memories. You'd swear that the details, the faces, the conversations, the emotions, are exactly as they happened. But what if I told you that some of those memories were never real? That your brain is not recording history, but rewriting it every single time you remember? This is the misinformation effect, a psychological phenomenon where your memories are altered by new information, even if that information is false. Governments use it. The media exploits it. Even your own family and friends unknowingly influence it. And the worst part, you have no idea when it happens. Let me prove it to you. The experiment that changed everything. In 1974, psychologists Elizabeth Loftus and John Palmer conducted a simple but terrifying experiment. They showed a group of people a video of a car accident. Afterward, they asked half of the group, how fast were the cars going when they smashed into each other? And the other half, how fast were the cars going when they contacted each other? Now here's the shocking part. The group that heard smashed reported much higher speeds and even claimed to see broken glass, even though there was no broken glass in the video. Just a single word changed their memory. Let that sink in. If something as small as a word can rewrite a memory, imagine what happens when entire narratives are controlled by politicians, corporations, and the media. They don't need to erase history. They just need to slightly alter the way you remember it. And before you know it, your version of the past is no longer your own. Your brain is a storyteller, not a historian. Most people believe that their memory works like a camera, storing events exactly as they happened. But neuroscience tells us the opposite. Your brain doesn't store memories. It reconstructs them every time you recall them. And with every recall, they can be altered, distorted, or completely replaced. Here's what this means. The more you think about a memory, the more likely you are to change it. If someone gives you false details about an event, your brain can merge them into your real memory. Even things you swear you saw might have been planted in your mind by someone else. Governments, media outlets, and even everyday people use this against you constantly, by feeding you misleading headlines, altered facts, and suggestive language designed to change the way you remember reality. And if you don't learn to spot it, your past will be rewritten without your permission. The Mandela Effect, when millions of people remember wrong. Ever heard of the Mandela Effect? It's when large groups of people remember something completely differently than it actually happened. For example, many people swear they remember the Monopoly Man having a monocle. He never did. Others recall Looney Tunes instead of Looney Tunes. Some are convinced the Berenstain Bears were actually spelled Berenstein Bears. These are small details, but they expose something chilling. If entire groups of people can have false memories, what else has already been rewritten? Now imagine this happening on a massive scale with politics, history, and even personal relationships. Because here's the terrifying truth. The misinformation effect isn't just an accident. It can be weaponized. In part 3, I'm going to show you exactly how the most powerful people on the planet use this against you every day. Are you ready to see behind the curtain? Part 3, the hidden war for your memory. Right now, you are in the middle of a war. Not a war fought with guns, armies, or explosions. This war is being fought inside your mind, a war over your memories, your beliefs, and your version of reality. The scariest part, most people don't even realize it's happening. The misinformation effect isn't just a psychological glitch, that it's a weapon, used by governments, corporations, and influencers to reshape how you remember the world. And if you don't learn to defend yourself, you'll spend your life believing lies that were never yours to begin with. How the powerful rewrite your reality. Think about it. Why do politicians always change the narrative after a scandal? Why do major news stories suddenly disappear overnight? Why do history books get rewritten depending on who's in charge? It's not random. They are using memory manipulation tactics designed to reshape public perception. And once you understand how they do it, you'll start seeing it everywhere. Here are the 3 most dangerous techniques being used against you right now. 1. Repeating lies until they become truth. The brain has a flaw. It mistakes familiarity for truth. This means the more times you hear something, the more likely you are to believe it, even if it's completely false. This is called the illusory truth effect, and it's used everywhere. Politicians repeat the same phrases over and over to drill them into your subconscious. Advertisers bombard you with slogans until you associate them with reality. Media outlets push the same story across multiple platforms to make it feel undeniable. If you hear a lie enough times, your brain starts treating it like a real memory. And once that happens, it's almost impossible to undo. 2. Altering small details to change the big picture. You don't need to erase history to change it. You just need to slightly alter the details. Because once one part of a memory is changed, the entire event starts to shift. This is why news headlines quietly update their wording days after a story breaks. Governments change the official version of an event years after it happened. People in power rewrite their past mistakes, hoping you won't notice the contradictions. It's not about making you forget. It's about gradually reshaping the way you remember. And once your memory changes, your entire worldview follows. 3. Injecting fake memories into the public mind. This is the most terrifying tactic of all. Because if you think false memories are rare, think again. In 2015, researchers successfully implanted fake memories into 70% of their participants, convincing them they had committed crimes that never actually happened. All it took was suggestion and reinforcement. Now imagine this happening on a massive scale. A news report suggests a person is guilty before a trial ever happens. A viral post spreads an exaggerated version of an event, changing how millions remember it. A documentary presents selective evidence, creating a version of history that feels real, even when it's not. And just like that, an event that never happened the way you remember becomes your new reality. How to break free from the misinformation trap. Now that you know how the game is played, how do you escape it? 1. Question your own memories. Every time you remember something with confidence, ask yourself, did I actually experience this firsthand? Or was my memory shaped by headlines, opinions, and repetition? 2. Watch how narratives shift. Whenever a major event happens, observe. Are the details being subtly changed over time? Who benefits from the way the story is being told? 3. Never accept something as true just because you've heard it multiple times. Familiarity is not proof. Loudness is not accuracy. Consensus is not reality. If you don't train your mind to resist these psychological attacks, your memory will be hijacked, and you won't even know it. But there's still one final, terrifying question left. If memories can be rewritten, how much of your past is even real? In part 4, we'll dive into the darkest part of the misinformation effect. What happens when your entire identity is built on false memories? Part 4, when your identity is built on lies. Now that you understand how the misinformation effect works, let's go deeper. This isn't just about news headlines or political scandals. This is about you. Because if memories can be rewritten, if the past can be altered without you knowing, if entire events can be shaped by outside forces, how much of your identity is even real? What if the person you think you are is based on false memories? This is where the misinformation effect becomes terrifying, when it starts shaping who you believe yourself to be. The lies you tell yourself, your identity, the way you see yourself, is built on your memories. The successes you remember give you confidence. The failures you remember create self-doubt. The stories you tell yourself about your past shape your entire personality. But what happens when those memories aren't accurate? What if the embarrassing moment you've carried with you for years didn't actually happen the way you remember? The time someone betrayed you was actually just a misunderstanding, but your memory warped it over time. The reason you never succeed is based on a self-imposed narrative that was planted in your mind years ago. Think about that. How many people are trapped in self-doubt, shame, or fear because of a memory that isn't even real? Your past isn't a fact. It's a story, one that has already been edited, revised, and altered without your permission. And if you don't take control of that story, someone else will. How the world shapes your identity without you knowing. The scariest thing about the misinformation effect is that it doesn't just change your memories. It changes who you think you are. And the people who understand this, governments, corporations, social movements, and even those closest to you, use it to shape your identity without you realizing it. Here's how. 1. They define you before you can define yourself. Ever wonder why certain labels get attached to you early in life? You're the smart one. You're the troublemaker. You're shy. You're just not good at that. These statements aren't just words. They're psychological seeds, planted in your mind until they grow into full-blown identities. And once you accept a label, your brain starts rewriting memories to fit it. Suddenly, every time you were quiet as a kid becomes proof that you were always shy. Every failure feels like evidence that you were never meant to succeed. But what if none of those things were ever true? What if they were just suggestions, implanted by people who had no idea they were shaping your future? 2. They control the narrative of your success and failure. Think back to the biggest failure of your life. Did you fail because you weren't good enough? Or did you fail because someone convinced you that you weren't good enough? Because here's the truth. Most people don't fail because they aren't capable. They fail because someone, somewhere, altered their self-belief. Parents, teachers, friends, bosses, the media. All it takes is one subtle suggestion at the right moment. Are you sure you're ready for this? Maybe this isn't for you. You don't seem like the type of person who would succeed at that. And just like that, your memory of yourself changes. A moment of hesitation becomes a lifelong belief that you aren't good enough. A single rejection becomes the proof that you always fail. Not because it was true, but because your brain turned it into a story and you believed it. 3. They make you believe that changing is impossible. This is the final and most dangerous trick. Once your identity is shaped, the system works to keep it that way. Self-doubt is profitable. Insecure people spend more money trying to fix themselves. Division is profitable. If you think you're on a side, you'll fight for it instead of questioning it. Control is easier when people believe they are powerless. If you think your identity is fixed, you'll never try to change it. And so, the misinformation cycle never ends. Your memories shape your beliefs shape your identity, and your identity keeps you trapped in the same patterns, over and over again. The escape, how to reclaim your mind. If you want true freedom, you have to take control of the one thing no one else should have access to, your own identity. Here's how. 1. Challenge every memory that defines you. Ask yourself, is this memory real, or was it influenced by something or someone? Recognize that your past is not as solid as you think. It can be reshaped just like it was before. 2. Rewrite your own narrative. Stop letting past failures define you. If a memory is false, why let it control your future? Start telling yourself a new story, one where you are in control of your abilities, your mindset, and your future. 3. Question every label you've been given. Just because someone called you something doesn't mean it's true. If you've been stuck in an identity that limits you, ask yourself, who benefits from me believing this? Because here's the final truth. The misinformation effect is not just about false memories. It's about the false limits you've placed on yourself. And the moment you realize that, you can start rewriting your entire life. But before we finish, there's one last terrifying question. If you can rewrite your own story, what happens when someone else rewrites it for you? In part 5, we'll dive into the most dangerous part of all, how misinformation is used to control entire societies, and how you can defend yourself from being manipulated. Part 5, how misinformation is used to control entire societies. You've now seen how the misinformation effect shapes your memories, your beliefs, and even your identity. But here's the terrifying reality. This doesn't just happen on an individual level. It happens on a global scale. Governments use it. Media empires use it. Corporations, social movements, and propaganda machines thrive on it. Why? Because the easiest way to control people is to control their past. If you can rewrite history, if you can alter the way people remember reality, then you don't need to force them to obey. They will willingly follow the version of the truth you created for them. And right now, it's happening all around you. How societies are manipulated without knowing it. Misinformation isn't just about spreading lies. It's about changing the way people think over time, so slowly, so subtly, that they never realize they've been rewritten. Here's how it happens. 1. The slow rewriting of history. If you want to control the future, you must first control the past. Governments quietly change official narratives of historical events. School curriculums alter details to fit political agendas. News outlets highlight certain events and erase others, shaping public perception. Over time, the original truth fades. People forget. New generations learn only the version that was designed for them. And before long, what was once a lie becomes the official truth. If you think this doesn't happen today, think again. Every country, every power structure, every ruling class has rewritten history to serve its own interests. And unless you question everything, you are living in someone else's version of reality. 2. The creation of fake enemies. If you want to control a society, give them an enemy to hate. Politicians create outsiders to blame for economic problems. Media companies push fear-based narratives to keep people divided. Social movements use us versus them tactics to keep people emotionally invested. Why? Because a divided society is an easily controlled society. When people are busy fighting each other, they don't question the ones pulling the strings. Look around. How many of your strongest beliefs were influenced by the media you consume? How many of your fears were planted in your mind by someone else? How many of your opinions were carefully shaped to serve someone else's agenda? If you don't control your own mind, someone else will. 3. The illusion of free thought. This is the most dangerous part of all. Because even when people are manipulated, even when their memories have been altered, even when their entire belief system has been influenced by false information, they still think they are thinking for themselves. This is how control works. You are given two choices, but both choices lead to the same outcome. You are given information, but it has already been filtered to fit a specific narrative. You are given opinions, but they are shaped by what you have been repeatedly exposed to. And because of this, most people never realize they are being controlled. They truly believe their opinions are their own. They truly believe their memories are accurate. They truly believe they are free. But in reality, they are living inside a carefully designed illusion. The final question, can you escape? Now that you know the truth, there is only one question left. Can you break free? The answer is yes, but only if you're willing to think differently than the rest of the world. Here's how. 1. Become unpredictable. If the system can predict your thoughts, it can control them. Avoid thinking in pre-programmed patterns. Always question the obvious answer. 2. Seek unfiltered truth. Go to primary sources. Don't rely on secondhand opinions. Observe how narratives shift over time. What changed? And why? 3. Detach emotionally from information. Emotional reactions make you easier to manipulate. Always ask, who benefits from me feeling this way? 4. Reclaim your own identity. Don't let society tell you who you are or what you believe. Rewrite your own past on your own terms. Because the only real way to break free from misinformation is to take full control of your own mind. Now tell me, are you ready to see the world for what it really is?